Well, I'd like to speak today about the value of time. Time is a precious treasure that we only find in this life. And there will come a day, we know not when, and an hour which will be our last on this earth. And at that point, there will be no more time. And we, as much as we want more time, we will not have it. What is done is done. And that's the point of today's gospel that Jesus shares with us. He talks about this parable of 10 virgins, 10 bridesmaids. 5 were foolish, 5 were wise, and the foolish ones didn't prepare for the moment when the bridegroom would arrive. And so they find themselves locked out from the wedding feast. It's too late. It's too late for them. So we know that time has an infinite value, because in every moment we can turn back to God or we can merit eternal graces. And yet time is so neglected. We think about how many vain pursuits we spend our time on, things that don't really matter. And then even worse, we ask people, what are you doing right now? And they say, I'm just passing the time, or I'm killing time. Killing time, that is such a bad thing because it has so much value for us. There's even a fable from Aesop about this. It's about the ant and the grasshopper. The ant spends all summer and all fall setting something aside so that when winter comes, he'll have something to eat. And then when winter comes, the grasshopper comes to visit the ant and says, I have nothing, can you give me something to eat? And the ant says, why, or what were you doing all summer? And he said, I was making music and dancing. And it's clear that you have to make good use of your time. In the lives of the saints, there is no tomorrow. They don't talk about tomorrow. They only speak about today. But in the lives of sinners, they always say later, later, tomorrow, at some future point, I'll get around to doing that. But we shouldn't waste any time. Imagine this. If I told you you could have as much land as you can walk around in one day, you would start walking right away and you wouldn't stop until the day was over. When I was in high school, we had, after prom, there was like this booth that you got to go into. They turn on the fans and dollar bills started flying around, and a piece of paper with prizes on it. And you had like 30 seconds to grab as much money as you could. Well, you can guarantee that I didn't tie my shoes while I was in that thing, I wasn't wasting any time. And that's how we should think about this life, that we have this time, we should make such good use of it. At the end of our lives, we'll be so thankful that we spent time well. We spend time on prayer, meditation, spiritual reading, doing acts of charity, going to Mass, going to confession. All these things will bring us consolation, because now is a time in which we should lay up for ourselves treasure in heaven, where the moths cannot reach it and the thieves cannot steal it. And we should begin without delay, because time is short and eternity awaits. So I want to share with you a story about people that use their time well. And it's actually our story. It's a previous chapter. See, today, November 12th, is the anniversary of the dedication of this beautiful church. 111 years ago today, Bishop John Hennessy came and dedicated this church to God and consecrated it. And so I decided, I wanted to learn more about that. So I emailed the archives of the diocese, and they sent me this news article from the Catholic Advance. Now, I'm not going to read all of this to you today. I see that you can buy diamond rings for $10. That sounds like a good deal. But this is what it says. Tuesday, November 12th, was a red-letter day for the people of Kingman, for it marks the completion and dedication of one of the finest churches in the diocese, which they have erected with so much labor and sacrifice. One of the finest churches in the diocese. I didn't say that. The Catholic Advance said that. With much labor and sacrifice, it said. They gave up a lot. And this next sentence is really special. The congregation is not large, nor are the members rich in this world's goods, But they have stinted themselves of many comforts to give to the service of God an edifice of which they are justly proud, and which will prove a blessing to themselves and their children. And we can add, and to their children, and to their children, and to their children, and to their children, and to us. Right? All of this what they've done, they're not large in numbers. They were rich in what matters most, what matters to God. And it talks about their pastor. His name was Father Walsh, too. 111 years ago, the last Father Walsh was here. He was Father Alfred. I looked this up. I thought, how old was he when that church was dedicated? And he was the same age then as I am now, or very close to it. And so it goes on, the last thing I'll read. A new spirit has been instilled into the congregation, and now a thoroughly united and happy people rejoice with him, their pastor, in having a house of God that deserves the name. And then it goes on with more details, but I will spare you that. So I just want to, think about those people 111 years ago. They have all gone to their eternal reward. Their souls are in eternity. Their bodies are now laying in the earth, awaiting the day of resurrection. And their memory lives on. They have handed on to us not only a beautiful church, but a beautiful faith that we can hand on as well. And so I want to ask, what will our parish say about us 111 years from now? What will they say about us? Will they have another Father Walsh then? Perhaps so. Will they look back at us and say, look how much these people love God. See how much their faith meant to them. I hope so. And if we use our time wisely, they will say that. And we can bear a lot of fruit in time and eternity if we use our time well. One final story. There was a religious sister who died. St. Alphonsus Liguori tells a story. And she died, and she was in heaven, and she appeared back to one of her religious sisters. And she said, we're perfectly happy, but if I could go back and change one thing, I would go and I would suffer for so long just to be able to say the Hail Mary one more time. One more time, she would do all that. And so we have the time at our disposal. Let's use it well, and it will bear a lot of fruit, I promise. Time is precious, and we only find it in this life, and so we should make the best use of it we can.